As tensions rise, at least on social media, on differences between India and the Maldives, we look at the popular argument, we have Lakshadweep, so we don't need the Maldives. We look at this from purely an ecological standpoint. Some say the Lakshadweep islands are some of the most fragile anywhere, hardly the place where we can have thronging droves of tourists. So consider this. Can Lakshadweep replace the Maldives as a tourist destination? Well, these are low-lying islands which are some of the worst affected by global warming. That's going to increase in the years ahead. The Coral Atoll Islands are witnessing rapid changes, and these rapid changes are physically visible in Lakshadweep as well. Flooding, erosion, a rise in seawater and frequent storms. These are environmental factors which cannot be ignored at all. Therefore, before we start talking about a greater inflow of tourists, what is the land that we are going to be bringing these tourists onto? Lakshadweep has faced large-scale coral mortality or coral death in the past. Whenever there is a rise in seawater temperatures, coral formations get degraded. Whether they can sustain themselves once again or not is something which really depends from island to island. But coral mortality affects the viability, the physical viability of the Lakshadweep chain. There are scientific reports which have said that land-based pollution must be controlled. If there is a surge of tourists, would you be able to actually handle more pollution in islands which have very limited carrying capacity? Remember, the total area of in the Lakshadweep Islands is a fraction of what exists on the Maldives. And therefore, there is much denser population in these areas as well. Would we be able to accommodate a throng of tourists? Remember, tourism is very heavily regulated right now. It's not easy to get in at all. These scientific reports which I referred to have also said that overfishing must be regulated. The reports say that local actions must now focus on protecting existing reefs. Remember, there are only 10 inhabited atolls in the Lakshadweep chain. Yes, there are lots of uninhabited ones, but do they have the infrastructure? Do they have the potable water to sustain tourism? Well, joining us now, Professor Anjal Prakash, Associate Professor and Research Director at the Bharati Institute of Public Policy. We're also joined by the former Administrator of Lakshadweep, Mr. Farooq Khan. Thank you both very much for being with us. Professor Anjal Prakash, can the Lakshadweep chain, from an environmental standpoint, sustain a throng of tourists?
Thank you, Shom, for having me. And this is a very important, I think, issue that you have raised. There are 2-3 points that I would like to bring it. I was part of the special report, IPCC special report on oceans and cryosphere. This was published in 2019, and we looked at two interconnected systems, the oceans and the cryosphere, which is the frozen part of the world. What we found is that the ocean has, because of the rise in global temperature, there is huge sea level rise. Coming to Lakshadweep, there are a couple of figures that I would like to put forward. There's a recent study which is done in 2021 by IIT Kharagpur, supported by our own Department of Science and Technology, and they have been also telling that the rise in sea level is about 0.4 to 0.9 millimeter per year. By middle of the century, we will be having a huge problems in terms of the land mass which is going to go underwater. And by end of century, if the 1 meter rise, I think we will not see Lakshadweep in our own, in the map. And that's how things are. So that's number one. The second is, as I think your report also said about coral reef. Now, our report has said that about 18% of the coral reef has already declined in our part of the world, and this is going to be going further because the rising temperature has also been leading to what we call oceans are becoming more acidic because it is sinking in more and more carbon, and because of that, the coral reefs are declining. Now, you have to understand the coral reefs are part of what we call a protective system that protects the islands from the current of the oceans, and about 97% of the ocean current actually gets dissolved if the coral reef populations are good. That's also going a huge decline. So these are the problems: the sea level rise, the intrusion of water bodies, the saltwater bodies into the fresh water, and the carrying. So all these are actually leading to the carrying capacity of the island that we have seen, and that is what we're seeing. That is not going to be it is going to be a huge problem for us as we go forward if there is a more influx of tourism and people inhabiting those areas.
Farooq Khan, sir, there's a good reason, and you would know this better than anybody else, why for decades there was very limited tourism into the Lakshadweep chain. Even now, it's not as if you can just walk in over there. You can't. You have to register yourself. There is very limited flight connectivity. You have to go by ship in the case of most people. You can spend only a limited number of hours for most people on the islands. Don't you think that this was all done to protect the ecology? Do we have the bandwidth to actually change that now?
Thanks for having me, Vishnu. I'm happy that I would be able to clear certain doubts about Lakshadweep. I spent good 3 years in Lakshadweep from 16 to 19, 2016 to 2019. And when we talk about ecology of the area, of those atolls and those lagoons, the concerns which have been raised by my co-panelists are very valid. But I don't see a doomsday there. When I was there, we were having a group of scientists who used to monitor the rise in sea level regularly. And I'm happy to tell you that from 16 to 19, there was hardly any perceptible change in the level of the sea. Having said so, about the corals, what I have learned there after discussing it on many occasions with my scientist colleagues there and those people from various research institutes of the country whom we had invited to conduct different kind of researches on these islands, the destruction of the corals is not as bad as is happening elsewhere. Like you witnessed in Australian Great Barrier Reef. In fact, if you look at the data, the destruction is more in Maldives than in Lakshadweep. We are not, I'm sure, Government of India would not be projecting Lakshadweep as an alternative, a complete alternative to Maldives, because Lakshadweep is going to be a very exclusive tourist spot. And once the vision which our Honorable Prime Minister had, which he started right from 2015 onward, when he decided to go for a holistic development of 10 different islands, which included Lakshadweep, like I mentioned it earlier also in one of your programs, that Lakshadweep thereafter was given to Niti Aayog to plan a complete detailed study of how the Lakshadweep can be developed into a tourist destination, a major tourist destination. Tourists are already coming. I'll tell you that lot many Europeans and foreigners keep on coming there. Yes, for us, people living on the mainland India, Lakshadweep was probably, there were so many people who would confuse Lakshadweep with Andaman Nicobar. So many would even tell me, okay, you are in Andaman? Oh no, it's Lakshadweep.
Yeah, so it's less known. I take that point.
Geographical knowledge.
Yes. No, so but I just wanted to yeah, go ahead, sir. Finish your point quickly, Mr. Khan.
Yes. As far as the destruction of the corals, which I was referring to, the coral destruction is regularly being monitored, and there is regular regeneration of corals also in those waters, because there is hardly anything, any pollutant going into the lagoons or into the sea. Basically the lagoons are the one which are created by the...
So I take your point. You believe that things
corals
need to be handled and that there is potential. Professor Anjal Prakash, would you like to
very
respond to that?
carefully. The potential is
sir,
there.
can we just keep the strike rotating?
Yeah.
I just wanted to
See-
go back to Anjal. Anjal, respond to that.
Yeah.
How much more carrying capacity do the islands have?
Yeah. So now, Vishnu, now that the comparison is with Maldives, let me just put up some data on Maldives as well.
Sure.
As the beautiful resort that you see on the screens are not the good picture of Maldives. Maldives is actually reeling under huge problem. By end of the century, about 80% of Maldives will not be on the map, and the sea level rise is actually killing Maldives for like anything. There is huge water crisis. All the water which they are actually earlier, the groundwater resources have actually gone dry. Now what they are focusing on is the rainwater harvesting, and about 97% of Maldives this survives on the water which actually comes from the sky and not from the ground, which is actually a perennial source. So we must learn from the mistake Maldives has actually gone through and done this, and then irreversible damage to the environment that they are reeling under, and this is going to be a problem. So there's two levels. One is the damage that is happening from our own intervention, and one is about climate change, which is we have no control over. And what we are seeing is that under the 1.5 degree scenario, which is going to happen only by 2050, about half of the Maldives actually are going to be reeling under huge problem. Some areas are going to be inhabitable. Now we are talking about 2 degree rise in temperature. That means the entire Maldives is going to be wiped out from the map, and that is what we are seeing also in Lakshadweep. So my caution is, and I am not against development. I think the controlled development is what Farooq Saab is talking about is good, but we must first, three things I would like to put forward. One is that we must bring in a white paper on the existing scenario of Lakshadweep before we start doing anything. So we must have a white paper, let the data speak by itself. Let's talk to the scientists, and the scientists must inform the policymakers on this, because there's nothing against science telling us the story. That's number one. The second part is definitely a controlled tourism will bring in prosperity. There are only 68,000 people who are inhabiting Lakshadweep at this moment. It's a serene environment. We must develop that as an alternative, fine, but we must also have its sustainability and learn from what Maldives have done to their own people and their own resources. We must not repeat them. That is what I would suggest.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you both very much for joining us. I think the consensus here is that, the islands are extremely fragile. Any development has to be done smartly, and how much can be done is something that needs to be looked at very, very closely indeed. Certainly, the Lakshadweep Islands, just for the amount of land available for any tourist activity, is a fraction of the Maldives. So, therefore, when we have this entire debate on social media on the Maldives, perhaps Lakshadweep is not the solution to Indians going or not going to the Maldives.